Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Boom Comic Source collaboration. It's your DC Spotlight for the week of January 28th, 2026. 14 books to talk about. It's a little bit of a larger week and a really, really good week, I got to say. I think I enjoyed everything. There were a couple that, kind of on the lower end. But for me, a little bit of a bounce back with absolute titles. And it's so interesting, right? Because though I was thinking about why this week seems so much better. I mean, the last couple of weeks we had just a few books. I kind of wish DC spread them out a little more evenly. They didn't release any books on Christmas Eve, as you all know. We had like 18 books the week before, and then none on Christmas Eve, and then just a few on New Year's Eve, and then like 7 and 7, and now we're back up to 14. I just wish they could smooth it out. If we got like 12 books each week, but that's just selfishly, I'm nitpicking because we have to read them all, and it would just be easier if there were, kind of a more uniform number of books. But yeah, I was thinking about it, and I was like, it's almost like, okay, now we're getting the books that were, prepared before the break, because everybody, DC, as a lot of comic publishers, they start sort of taking a holiday break halfway through December, and so it sort of feels like coasting a little bit toward the end of the year. But as we all know, these are done months and months ahead of time, so that's not actually the case. But it's interesting that 3 weeks after the new year starts, 4 weeks, what have you, that we start getting some really, really great books. So it was a little bit tough for me to actually pick my top five. I almost wanted to do like a top six. Like I had a real hard time. My book that's number 6, I think probably deserves to be in the top 5 as well. But anyway, we'll get to that. And I'll let Rocky talk about the week overall. But we do have to spread some sad news. Before we get to that, I don't know if you guys are active on social media or you saw it, but the legendary Sal Busema passed away actually on Friday. The news came out on Monday. Monday would have been his 90th birthday. So he passed away just a few days shy of his 90th birthday. A lot of people are familiar with his work, obviously, because he had over a 10-year run on Incredible Hulk. He had over a 10-year run on Spectacular Spider-Man. That was in those J.M. DeMatteis sort of later 80s into the 90s years where Tombstone was a big part of the story and what have you. He's legendary for his Hulk run. He actually drew the first book that I collected on a monthly basis, which was Rom Space Knight. He drew almost the entirety of that run, which was amazing. And this guy was like really prolific. He's credited as a co-creator on Rom Space Knight, credited as a co-creator on Defenders. He was quick. He drew action maybe better than anybody. And if you read Marvel Comics at that time, late 70s, definitely through the 80s and 90s when Sal was kind of at his peak, that 20-year period where he literally drew thousands of comics. He was a go-to guy because he was fast. But if you read comics at that time and you're checking us out on YouTube, these images are going to seem familiar, right? It's become known as the Buscema Punch. If you Google that, you'll see so many images. There's articles that talk about it. There was when I was kind of looking up Sal after I got the news on Monday, and I was looking for the Buscema Punch and what have you, looking for some examples. There was like a Reddit thread that somebody put up and like, does Sal Buscema know how to do any other pose? And it kind of jokingly, right? And the overwhelming of the comments were like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I love it. And I do too. Like, the guy typically is upside down. He's flying backwards. He's flying toward the front of the panel, flying toward the reader, as you can see. And that signature trademark of the mouth, just agape, yelling or screaming in pain or terror or whatever. Usually some spit, connecting the lower lip, bottom lip. And it just so much impact that, there's like a big energy burst where the punch landed. And it was his trademark move. And you can go and look, and even in his first issue of ROM, because I did go and look, see if there was a Buscema punch, because I was 79 when he really kind of got started. And there wasn't a Buscema punch, but there's plenty of screams where you do still have because even if it's not a Buscema punch with the guy flying backwards and the mouth open, whenever anybody yells or screams at one of his books, it's always that like trapezoid-shaped mouth and the angst in the face, just like, it's so great. And I never had a chance to meet him. I think he was at a San Diego one year when I was there, but he wasn't really at the con much. He was there with Chris Ryle, obviously Chris Ryle former editor-in-chief over at IDW, huge Rom fan as well. He did some work with Sal, when IDW brought Rom back a few years ago. Sal did some covers and what have you. So he was there and doing some stuff with Chris. And unfortunately, I never got a chance to meet him. But by all accounts, everybody that I know that knew Sal just said he was such a sweetheart of a guy, super nice guy, really professional when it came to getting the work done and what have you. So, 90, nearly 90, that's a full life, but it's still sad because we've lost another legend. And again, he was probably in the first 10 artists I was able to recognize his style because it was so distinctive, beyond there's a Busema punch and obviously it's him. But just a thicker line. And I don't think, again, he gets enough credit. I'm talking about how great he is at action. But if you just Google like Sal Busema Spectacular Spider-Man, there's a really heartfelt scene with Harry Osborn in the hospital, the first time Harry died. God knows how many times he's died since then. But a really heartfelt scene where Harry's in the hospital bed and he's dying and Peter's there sitting on his bed next to him. He's got his hand on Harry's face. It's just such a poignant scene. I don't want to sell Sal short and say, he was great at action. He was great at everything. He was great at emotion. He was great at quieter moments as well. And again, just a consummate professional and a big loss for the comic industry. Rocky and I are getting older nowadays, and God, it's just these legends that wrote the comics of our youth are just, there's so many of them that are gone now. And I think. I
was a DC guy I got into comics as a DC, but when it came to Marvel, it was Jack Kirby and a slew of others, and certainly, Sal Busema. This is art I recognize, and I never put a name to this art or to this style of punch or this style of action scene until just in the last few years, quite frankly, and especially now with his death. So it's one of those things where you just don't appreciate the contribution that these artists have. And I was just talking to my wife, where you texted me earlier about this, and I was talking to my wife, and I said, it's very few comic book artists actually have scenes named after them, because just when you think, there's only so many ways you can draw a scene. There's only so many, every now and then an artist comes along and says, hold my beer, and just defines a moment or defines a scene or a particular way of doing things. And Sal's one of those guys. And to have a punch named after you, and he's definitely earned it. And like you said, I echo your sentiments. I Googled it. I Googled Busema punch, and wow, yeah. I just picked like 5 random picks to show people who maybe aren't as familiar with him, but I'm sure they are familiar with him. They just didn't realize who he was.
Yeah, when we talk about naming a sort of a scene or a style or whatever after somebody, I obviously Kirby Crackle, right? Kirby's known for that. And the Busema punch. I can't think of any other off the top of my head.
Well, maybe McFarlane's webbing. Like McFarlane had a style of webbing for Spider-Man, maybe,
that's a good call. You don't see it that often. But one of the other things about this, because I as I mentioned, people were a little bit nitpicking, because he used this scene so many times. The other thing about it, this is not an easy way to draw to make it look natural, and it does vary a little bit. The extremities, the arms and the legs aren't exactly in the same pose every time. Yes, they're flying backward. Yes, they're upside down. Yes, their mouth is agape. And the arms and legs are flailing, but they're not always in the same position. But this is a hard thing to make it look right. Make the anatomy look right with foreshortening and everything. It's something that definitely kind of more novice comic artists struggle with. So it not only does it just sell the action and the impact, it's also a very technically challenging pose, and obviously he just had it down. So again, a trademark, a legend, definitely worthy of all the praise that we're giving him. And I'll say it again, everybody, if you have a chance to go to a convention where there's going to be an older creator there that you're a fan of, take advantage of it, because a lot of them are not going to be around that much longer. In fact, some were like Marv Wolfman. Toward the end of last year, there was a rumor that he had passed away. I think Gail Simone got mixed up with. I don't know who she got him mixed up with, but was saying, and Marv had to say, no, I'm still alive and kicking, but he's up there, I think, approaching 90. So, yeah, if you get a chance to go see Marv, he's amazing as well. So, anyway, give us your thoughts on the week of DC Comics overall, Rocky.
I found it easy to pick my top five, and once again, the Absolute Universe continues to impress the hell out of me, and the mainstream just is, again, I continue to say it's a hard time for the mainstream to just measure up to me overall. If it wasn't for the absolute titles, I would have struggled to pick my top five. I really would have. But I mean, there's some ones that stood out here. But this was just so many titles this week. And maybe, I think DCKO is some of the tie-ins are beginning to wear out. It's just getting a little bit, they're dragging on for me. So that maybe it was just the mood I was in, but it just felt like they're dragging on. With the possible exception of Superman. Superboy Prime continues to entertain the hell out of people, but we'll talk about that. But so I'm not quite as excited about the week as you are, but I am, because I'm having such a good time with the Absolute, and even there's even an Absolute title that didn't make my top five, but it would have made my top five, but for the other ones. But in any event, I'm still having a blast here. But it's. I'm still loving DC, but I have to say that with the Absolute titles and the indie market, and and I'm predicting, Marvel's going to be coming back here too. I don't want to get off topic too much here, but I'm still excited as hell about comic books this year. And last year we were excited about DC, with the advent of Absolute, and this year I'm excited for Marvel, and so wouldn't that be great? I mean, hey man, when the big two are going strong, we all benefit, and right now we got a strong DC, we got a strong independent market, I think, and Marvel, God bless them. I wish them well. I hope they impress us because rumor has it that the Ultimate line is in fact coming back, so, to the surprise of absolutely no one.
Yeah, if you didn't hear the news, everybody, it was announced today, as we're recording this Tuesday, that the Absolute Universe is coming back. We haven't gotten a ton of information about it yet, but it's supposed to be coming back May 2026 with Reborn Ultimate Impact. Supposed to be more news about it coming, I imagine, tomorrow or maybe later this week. Probably get the announcement that it's Bendis, as we've been speculating or what have you for months. 6 months ago, I think I said it was Bendis. As soon as I heard Bendis was going back, I knew he was going to be relaunching and show running the Ultimate Universe over there. So pretty sure I'm right. I guess we'll see. The other thing I'll mention, in your comic shop this week, don't forget to pick up Iron Man #1 from Joshua Williamson. I'm really excited. Iron Man's one of my favorite Marvel characters. I'm really excited to check that out as well. It's interesting, it's sort of natural to compare the main line with the Absolute line, talking about how excited I am about the week and how strong of a week I thought it was. I will say part of that is because the Absolute titles, spoiler alert for my rankings, but the Absolute titles, they're up there for me this week. And really exciting. And I'm constantly wondering about this. We've talked about it. We talked about it on our Comic Talk episode for the end of the year last year. Like, why does it seem to be more excited or whatever? What is it about the main line that does still get me excited? You mentioned DCKO. I echo your sentiments about the one-shots getting a little long in the tooth, and this whole event, we talked about it from the beginning, has felt like it's dragged a little bit only because we haven't had a ton of content. And it seems like we're being a little bit like dichotomous when we're saying that, or contradictory, right? So I want the DCKO event to go a little quicker, because there are weeks where we get no real event, and then even when we do, sometimes the tie-ins don't feel like they're moving the story forward. So I'm excited for what comes next. I'm excited that it's a crossover. I'm excited to see how the main universe is going to look after things get reshaped and what have you. So I'm ready for the event to be over. I am enjoying it, but I'm ready for the event to be over because I want to see how the universe is going to look coming after it. So when we say it feels like it's dragging a little bit, well, then wouldn't you want more content to move the story forward? Yeah, but the content, not when the content is filler, which is what some of these one-shots are starting to feel like, right? They're not advancing the main story forward. I'm not getting any extra content that's covering the tournament itself. we're just getting the ancillary effects or what have you. So I sort of feel like it's a little bit a product of the way that these events are made now, right? Like we talk about doing a spine series that's 4 to 6 issues, then a bunch of one shots. Obviously, a lot of them are anthologies or whatever. They don't add that much, as opposed to back in the day. I'm thinking of things like, Final Crisis or what have you, where it really was a line-wide event that took over all the books, and it was over in like 3 months, and it was momentous, and a lot of stuff happened. And now it just feels like they drag on a little bit while there's still other titles going on that don't necessarily tie in, like Detective Comics this week, which is fine because Detective Comics has been very, very good under the pencil of or the scribe of Tom Taylor or whatever. But it feels strange. And when I go back and I look, and part of the reason I went back this week, we'll talk about it when we get to the first book we're going to talk about, as a matter of fact, was I did go back and read something from last year because I didn't remember it. And I'm like, oh my God, Absolute Power was 2 years ago. I mean, not a full 2 years, it was 2020, but it was 2024, not a full 2 calendar years, but that's been a long time that we've been building up for this. So it's kind of like, okay, can we get things moving a little faster? And I think that's a part of the reason that Absolute is really resonating with so many people. We've talked many times about Absolute being a clean jumping on point, and it's fresh and people can kind of get the hang of it right away. But the other thing is, because it's new, every time you're introducing something, it's also keeping the momentum going. So, whether it's Zatanna having her first appearance, or the Suicide Squad, or, Lex Luthor, or the new Joker's origin or whatever, it feels a little bit more important. It feels a little bit more impactful, and it feels like it's moving the momentum of the universe forward. Whereas the main line, because it has so much history, it just can't move as fast. It's just a product of what it is. And I think that's what maybe a little bit of what you feel, Rocky, where the excitement is not there as much. But anyway, the Kids Are All Fight Special #1. This is the first tie-in this week. It's written by Jeremy Adams, Travis Mercer on art, Andrew Dahlhaus on colors, Dave Sharp on letters. This did not make my top 5. It is one of those books that didn't feel necessary to the event. Did I enjoy it? Yeah. Is it super high on my list? No. It only comes in ranked 8th for me. I thought the Travis Mercer art was really, really great. I did enjoy seeing some of these characters that we don't get to see that often, like Fair Play and The Boom and Quiz Kid and what have you. And I did like Jeremy Adams scripting, the dialogue between these different characters, and seeing John Boy try to be John Kent, Superboy or Superman, whatever, trying to be a leader was interesting as well. And again, the Travis Mercer art, gorgeous or what have you. But it just, at the end of the day, didn't really feel necessary. And there were some things that were, I guess I'll reference it when we get to one of the other crossovers. I guess would be more appropriate when I talk about like flashing back. So mostly I enjoyed this for the art. I thought the art was fantastic, and the dialogue, just the scripting, the interactions, the banter between these different characters. But in terms of its importance to the DCKO event, this can be skipped. If you're on a budget, I'll say it like that. So, what do you think of it, Rocky?
Yeah, I actually I enjoyed this. You're right; it's not necessary. I really love the cover array. I really love it. I love how they all stand out, and I also wonder if we got some clues here as to who the new makeup of the Titans is going to be, because this continues in Titans 32. Because I actually really like the team members here. I like the team up here, and at the end, sort of it's revealed who the team is. It's to have Yara Flor, Boom, Fairplay, John Kent, Cassandra Cain, Leon Harper, Jay Garrick's daughter. I forget her name.
The Boom.
The Boom. Right, sorry. Oh, I said that. Oh, sorry. And Fair Play and Static and Stargirl. This is such a nice team. And I kind of like seeing Yara Flor again. I find in the last portrayal, Stephanie Williams portrayed Yara Flor in last week in Wonder Woman. Tom King's she's taken over for 2 issues of Wonder Woman, and Yara Flor's come back, and she's not as annoying. I think the absence of Yara Flor, I look forward to seeing her. I like that, and to see her back and maybe come into the fray, and I think it's a good thing. Now, Jeremy Adams is really good at characterization. He does a good job here. This is entertaining, and this is if you are a fan of the younger generation of DC heroes, this is pretty much. I think this is a must buy if you're into that, and so I think it is well. It is well done, and Jeremy Adams has actually developed a lot of that. He did a lot of that in his Flash run, actually, and he's very familiar with these characters. And I think Jeremy Adams, quite frankly, is an ideal writer to have written this issue. And so I'm glad to see it. Is it absolutely necessary? No, but I'm getting all the crossovers for DCKO, and this is a no-brainer must-buy for me just for that reason alone. And Jeremy Adams, hey, I'm a Jeremy Adams fan, so I'm gonna get it anyway. So, but good stuff.
Yeah, I'm picking it up too. Picking up the Joe Quinones cover just because it's great to see some of these younger kids. That's the Todd Knott cover. But yeah, like you said, like Quiz Kid, Fair Play, they just don't show up that often. And Tate Bromball is going to be taking over Titans from John Lehman as the writer. And you're right that this does look like, based on that last page, does look like these are going to be all members of the Titans, which again I'm glad because I want to see more of Judy Garrick, I want to see more Fair Play, and I want to see more Quiz Kid. So if you're going to be picking up Titans or you're a big Titans fan, this is almost like the Zero issue in a lot of ways. So you probably don't want to skip it. All right, let's move on. Up next, we have a book. I think it's in both of our top 5. Comes in at number 5 for me. It's Detective Comics 1105, The Courage That Kills, Part 5. Tom Taylor's the writer. Mikel Janin does the pencils, as well as the inks for pages 17 through 22 and the colors. And he gets an assist on the colors for the other pages from Wayne Fokker. He gets an assist on inks from Wayne Fokker and Norm Ratman on the other pages, so pages 1 through 16. Wes Abbott handles the letters. Now, this is the issue that I mentioned when we read 1104 that I immediately went to look to see if we had the January issue because it was a bit of a cliffhanger. I really wanted to know what had happened. I did not enjoy this issue quite as much because I feel like it didn't have as much like forward momentum as 1104 did. But we do get a lot of the origin of the Lion, of Leo here. And it's really interesting how Tom Taylor, throughout his run, right? We saw this in his first arc where he tied back to Joe Chill's Crime Alley incident with Bruce Wayne's parents. The fact that he had met Thomas Wayne before Thomas Wayne had saved his life and got to meet his wife and his daughter, or at least his partner. And I don't know if they were actually married, and his daughter and what have you. Now Taylor's, flashing back again to earlier times with Batman in the first couple of years of when he's Batman, and he encounters Leo. He takes his father into custody. His father's a kind of a low-level henchman, what have you. Leo's sort of traumatized by that event of seeing his father beaten up and incarcerated, beaten up by Batman, and has agoraphobia, afraid to go outside or whatever. But that would be enough. That would be cool to have that tie-in because, again, I love it, and I'm perfectly fine. There's times I've talked about how I don't really like retcons, retroactive continuity, but that's when it contradicts something. And there's nothing that Tom Taylor does here that contradicts anything that's come before. This could easily fit into the first couple of years of Bruce Wayne being Batman. And so that's really cool. But then he goes even a step beyond that, and we do see some interactions with Leo and Bruce Wayne. But then Leo, in an attempt to get over his agoraphobia and over his fear, actually goes and trains with Ted Grant, with Wildcat, and with Black Canary. And so it kind of explains how the Lion is able to go toe-to-toe with Batman. I mean, not obviously Batman's debilitated by the infection that he has, the virus that the Lion infected him with. But even beyond that, I mean, here's a guy that trained with Ted Grant and Black Canary. Black Canary is supposedly the best fighter in the DC universe, according to the recent Tom Taylor miniseries. So it gives a little bit more credence to the Lion being able to go toe-to-toe with Batman. So, that's really what this issue is kind of the origin of the Lion, more so than any real forward momentum on the story so far. We do see Batman walking around in kind of a suit that keeps him isolated, an isolation suit, because, he is infected and he's worried about infecting the rest of Gotham. But what's revealed at the end here when he's trying to stop the Lion from releasing this virus throughout Gotham is that actually the night that ship rolled into the harbor and there was a fog over Gotham, That fog wasn't a natural fog. That fog was this virus, was this contagion, and everybody in Gotham has already been infected with the virus. And in case you haven't been reading it, and you're like, well, what is the virus? What does it do? Whatever. It lowers your inhibitions. It removes your fear. So that's why the name of the story arc is The Courage That Kills, right? Like if you're not afraid of anything to the point where you'll be reckless and you'll be aggressive and you'll be violent and what have you. And so it's revealed to Batman at the end of this issue by the Lion that, yeah, it's you're trying to stop it. You're trying to unring a bell. You're trying to stop something that's already happened, and Gotham's about to tear itself apart. There's a riot starting and what have you, because everybody's been infected, and now the incubation period is over, and people are going to start losing their minds. So really, really well done. The Mikel art is fantastic. And this came in at number 5 for me. It was, like I said, it was tough between number 5 and number 6. But I gave this one the nod because I just remember, finishing 1104 and going to read this right away and really, really enjoying it. So I didn't want to penalize it because this was the second time I was reading it in preparation for talking about it today. So, but it makes your top 5 as well, Rocky. What'd you think?
I enjoyed it. Mikel Janin's art's fantastic. This did feel a little bit more like a setup issue to the final issue, but the fact that we got more of the Lion's origin as a youngster, being traumatized, his father being sort of apprehended by Batman, and then the Lion was arguably traumatized by the experience and Batman himself. And then I got some. When Black Canary and Wildcat showed up as being early trainers of a young lion. It reminded me of Tom King's Black Canary Back in Black story where Oliver Queen himself first met Dinah Lance and Wildcat in his training in early years, I'm pretty sure that Tom Taylor probably read that series. Anyways, I thought it brought up some good vibes here, and the art's so well, and it just jives so well, and this is necessary setup because we get to know the Lion more, we understand him more, and you can have some sympathy for the Lion. Of course, he's a bad guy, but it's always nice when you get a little bit more background for a character. You can understand the motivations, and you can here. I'm also really loving the suit. I want to give a shout out to the variant cover. It looks like a Perillo cover of Batman in his sort of like, I guess, his antiviral suit that he wears because he's infected. Not that I suppose he probably didn't need to wear it if everyone's in Gotham's affected anyway. But in any event, it's a pretty cool looking cover. And yeah, the story, I don't need to rehash. You summarized it pretty well. It's pretty damn good. We know that the Justice League, led by Mr. Terrific, has been working on sort of a cure for Batman anyway. I'm sure next issue, even though it seems like this seems like a disastrous thing that all of Gotham's infected, I'm pretty sure with Mr. Terrific and the rest and Blue Beetle and the rest of the league on it, they're going to be able to have some sort of airborne sort of cure that they'll implement next issue. Tom Taylor is always good at wrapping up these story arcs, and great character work. And you said it before, and I agree with it that Tom Taylor, this is probably his example of his best work at DC since he came. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I think some people might be partial to his Dark Knights of Steel because it's not in continuity at all, though this is very light continuity, and where he is with continuity, he's he's tying in well, like I said, with the retcons. I enjoy this much more than Dark Knights of Steel or whatever, but I wanted to shout that out because I know a lot of people love that.
Well, I actually prefer Dark Knights of Steel too, but I'm thinking more in continuity. I think of mainstream DC, but yeah.
Yeah, 100%. This blows his Nightwing run, for me, out of the water. And I want to give credit where credit's due. Bjorn Barons is the one that did that cover. If that name sounds familiar, he's done a lot of work with Todd McFarlane. He's done a lot of Spawn covers.
Oh, okay.
But he's done some DC work as well.
I'll remember the name. I hope I remember the name then. My apologies to him.
All right, up next we have Harley Quinn number 58 from writer Elliot Kalan, Carlos Oliveras on art, Marisa Louise on colors, Lucas Gattoni on letters. I think I ranked this last for me. It's fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with it, but I sort of feel like the entire run that Elliot Kalan has been doing, it's been entertaining, and it sort of felt like it was one giant arc that wrapped up last issue, actually. but now this new arc is starting. It just feels like more of the same, and so now it's starting to maybe feel like it's dragging a little bit because we're seeing the same characters. And she's still in the same part of Gotham and what have you. So it's starting to feel a little tired to me because I had been enjoying it, but again, this issue just felt like more of the same that I've already gotten, and I'm ready for something new, different, maybe different artists, different art style, whatever. So yeah, I didn't really care for this issue, and I'll leave it at that. So
Yeah, I'll leave it at that too. It's just not my cup of tea. I really don't like artistically this version of Harley Quinn. I really don't like her outfit. Also, if this is a new arc, it feels like the arc hasn't ended. It feels like it's going on and on forever. It doesn't feel like there's ever a moment where you get a breath my God, I just want an issue. Can we just have an issue where we just get like a one shot, like just a one humorous Harley tale? I'm not a fan of the funny Harley to begin with. I want her to be taken more seriously. I think the time is well past that is the case. But I just need a break from this. But I will say that it's good to see Harley finally has a date with the
Aletha.
Aletha, right. I'm interested in that character, Aletha, but way too long to get to a date. Just way too long.
Exactly.
And so I've lost interest almost. Like I almost don't care. And plus it's the wrong art. It's the wrong artistic style for it. I know art's subjective, but again, you built up some excitement around this Aletha character, and then we got sidetracked with a bunch of nonsense. And I know it's nonsense and Harley Quinn go hand in hand, but it has to be nonsense that interests me, and it wasn't. So that's just the way they.
Yeah, you can drag the will they, won't they out too long, and that's where we are here. It's like we had this in like when Aletha was first introduced. There's a mutual attraction there. They're going to get together or not, whatever. That was
8 months ago. Yeah, 12 a year ago. Come on.
Yeah, it was like 18 months ago. Yeah,
I feel like it reminds me of Moonlighting with Bruce Willis, and I'm dating myself, but it's like, come on, Molly and or like X-Files. It's like, are they or aren't they?
Will they? Won't they? Yeah. All right. Up next, we have the holiday Valentine's special for DC Anthology. DC Supergirl Next Door, which makes a lot of sense to have this one shot that they can leave out. Retailers can leave out there on their racks for quite a long time, with the Supergirl movie coming up this year. That being said, none of these stories really resonated with me. It came in at number 13 for me. Let me give a rundown of the stories that are in there. It starts off with the Supergirl story, A Dream of Different Stars, written by I'm going to say CRC Payne, because that's how the first name is spelled. I don't think it's like Crick or anything, but CRC Payne, with art by Paulina Ganeshaw, colors by Kendall Good, letters by Lucas Catoni. Then there's a Jay Garrick story. That was probably my favorite one, Running on Love, written by Dorado Quick, art by Laura Braga, colors by Pressy, and letters by Wes Abbott. There was a Harley Quinn Poison Ivy story called Har Ivy Rehabilitated, written by Nicole Maines, art and colors by Sweeney Boo, letters by Micah Myers. I did enjoy that one as well. The Guy Gardner story was pretty funny, actually. Nathan Fairbairn, who's more known as a colorist, actually. The art was by Rafael Perez, colors by Nathan, letters by Dave Sharp. A Wonder Woman story, Runaway Romanticy, written by Sarah Kuhn, art by Ariel Jovianos, colors by Olivia Pacini, and letters by Travis Lanham. A Swamp Thing story, written by Rose Knight, art by Michael Shelfer, colors by Dan Brown, letters by Travis Lanham. So Long and Good Night was the name of that one. Martian Manhunter story, Like Home, written by Alex Gaylor, art and colors by Max Sarin, and letters by Farron Delgado. Then finally a Green Arrow story, I Love You Too, written by Dave Welgaz, pencils by Dylan Dietrich, inks by Wade Von Grobinger, colors by Yvonne Placencia, and letters by Wes Abbott. Main cover by Amy Reeder. I didn't think any of the other covers really stood out to me, but I will take a quick look. I did, there's a B cover by Alexander Lozano, but I did like the Amy Reeder cover. I thought it was well done, very recognizable as her work. But yeah, again, I don't really have much to say. None of these stories are really super memorable to me. But again, it makes sense that DC's putting this out in anticipation of the film as their Valentine's special this year. So Anything you want to add, Rocky?
I really like Michael Shelfer's art on the Abby and Swamp Thing story. I thought that was nice. That stood out to me. I also, I mean, Abby is sexy as hell. Like, again, I'm a Purian fanboy, unapologetic, and I love it. We need more sexiness in comics, quite frankly, because it's disappearing. It's nice to see it appear in the big two. And I also like Nicole Main's story with Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. I thought that was well done. It was sort of a different take on how they met, which it has to be out of continuity because it completely conflicts with Eric Henderson's take on Life and Crimes, which we're going to be reviewing this week. And I like the Guy Gardner story. It was a lot of fun. Guy Gardner has a potential love interest in a piece of goo. I thought that was kind of funny. Yeah. Guy Gardner. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess ICE continues to reject him, or I guess they're on again or off again. And now he's found a different life form who, I don't know, seems to be flirting with him, and but is also pretty rough with him. If Sal Busema would have drew this issue, his punch would have been when this alien hit Guy Gardner. Anyways, but yeah, there's a lot of fun scenes here. So this is a good. I think one of the better anthologies. I actually enjoyed this a little bit more because honestly, I didn't read all the story. I did read all the stories here. I don't always read all the stories, so I did actually enjoy this. And I don't know if I'm a big fan of the pink cover per se. I don't like the pink background. That's not because of the pink hair problem that I have, but it's a little bit off. But anyways, it's
I hear fun. What you're saying. It is a lot of pink, but at the same time, it is Valentine's Day. And the only nitpick that I have, again, I didn't think this was particularly memorable, but I didn't think there's none of the stories were bad. I just don't know that they're that memorable. But I hope nobody picks this up thinking that it's going to be all Supergirl stories.
Exactly.
Because that is what I worry about. DC calling this Supergirl Next Door, and the first story being about Supergirl, and having it on the racks perhaps when the Supergirl movie comes out. Not that they won't have other Supergirl content out at that time. But yeah, I wouldn't want somebody to go pick this up thinking it's all Supergirl and it's only the first story that's actually a Supergirl story. So, all right, up next we have Green Lantern number 31, Wanted Dead or Alive, written by Jeremy Adams, art by Montos, colors by Romulo Fajardo Jr., letters by Dave Sharp. I want to start this off by saying I'm a huge fan of Montos. I loved his art on Green Arrow. I don't know how well his art works on something that's a little more cosmic like Green Lantern. Still has really strong storytelling, but this story has like a gritty feel, which I don't know necessarily suited it as well as it could have. That being said, it is Barry Allen and Green Lantern Hal Jordan teaming up, which is a classic team up, right? We used to get those all the time in the early to mid 80s. So that was kind of a fun, nostalgic thing. And that's what this reminded me of most, just the nostalgia of those crossovers back in the day, because this only advances the story forward that Jeremy's been telling in the most minute sort of way. Again, which is fine because, if there's things going on with DCKO or whatever, he has to line things up. I totally get it. And this was enjoyable for what it was. But I will say this is the lowest rated Jeremy Adams comic I've had in quite a while. It did not make my top 5. It came in at number 7 for me. So, again, I thought it was fine. It was fun. But yeah, it didn't really move the story forward. And that story being these visions that Hal Jordan has had. Ever since he took a look at his name in the book of Oa, it was almost like, I don't know if anybody out there's a Stargate SG-1 fan, but there's one particular episode where Richard Dean Anderson looks into this like little portal, this alien world, and the thing like grabs him and it downloads all this information in his head. And pretty soon he like loses the ability to speak English and he's speaking in this other like language or whatever because he has all this information and it's kind of rewriting his brain. And that's sort of, I'm getting a little bit of that vibe with what, Hal read his name in the book of Oa and he's starting to get these visions. He's nervous about it. He's talked to Batman. He's talked to Green Arrow. Now he's talking to Barry Allen about it. And Barry had some good things to say, made Hal stop and think. He's like, hey, maybe you sent yourself that message. You need to be paying attention. Stop being afraid of it and kind of lean into it. So
Yeah.
that was sort of the only momentum for that storyline that we got here. It's good momentum, but just wasn't a lot. The main focus of the story was, on the team up and Barry, because he doesn't have any powers anymore. He's a little bit more in danger when he has to go to court and testify because he is still, a CSI for the Central City Police Department. So when he has to go and testify against some of these supervillains or mob bosses that have access to supervillains, his life's actually in danger because he doesn't have those powers. So Hal's there to help him out in this particular issue. But again, I just don't know that the art style suited the story really, really well. But individually, they're both good. But I don't know. It just didn't come together to be more than some of its parts for me this time. So
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it, Rocky?
Well, I like Jeremy Adams always thinks outside the box a little bit, and I really liked how I thought it was a little bit of I think it was an inspired storytelling where Barry Allen does appear as the Flash in this issue, but his costume is a Green Lantern construct because Hal had the idea of Barry Allen is very good at handling speed. He's so why don't I just make him go super fast and I'll just put him in a construct and I'll give him super speed with my power ring. That's exactly what he does. And Barry Allen gets to be Flash with the little bit of a power ring boost. And I think that was pretty cool. I thought that was a pretty inspired idea. And so we got, even though Barry Allen doesn't have any, he's not connected to the Speed Force. He's got a pretty good friend in Hal Jordan who can give him the next best thing. And I thought that was nice. And that's so something you can see best friends doing. It's like you'll always be a superhero to me, Barry. And Barry of course gives him some great advice. And what perfect advice for Barry to give, because how many times has Barry Allen, I'm sure, given himself advice in the past, or his future self advice, or his past self-advice, or different iterations. If there's one thing Flashes know, whether you're Barry Allen or anyone else, it's how to talk with yourself in the future or the past. So naturally, he's going to tell Hal, well, maybe you gave yourself that message. So, these two issues were, we were talking about Harley Quinn earlier. Harley Quinn, I need a break from what's going on. And I think Jerry Adams, we got these last two issues, the first one with Batman, and now with Barry Allen. I enjoy this. It's sort of a nice break from the action, and then we'll jump right back into it. And we got some good character work and it was fun. And we get to sort of we collect our breaths, and we're good to go again for another story arc. So it's wise to do that.
Yeah, don't forget we had the Green Arrow team up last month as well. So Batman and Green Arrow, and then Barry Allen. And I think next issue we'll probably get back to some more cosmic level stuff with him off of Earth, but I guess we'll see. All right, up next, Superman number 34. I think this is in both of our top 5. Written by Joshua Williamson, art by Eddie Barrows, with inks by Eber Ferreira. Alejandro Sanchez handles the colors. Ariana Mayer on letters. You mentioned Superboy Prime. He figures prominently in this issue. Why don't you give us your thoughts on it?
Well, this missed my top 5. This came in at number 6 for me. But I will, but I still had a blast with it. Superboy Prime is, you can tell, you can already see the rumblings of Superboy Prime sort of struggling with his morality. You can tell something's going on with him. And especially when Superboy Prime, of course, he's having a conversation with a Superman robot, and the Superman robot's got more faith in Superboy Prime than Superboy Prime does in himself, because the Superman robots are programmed to be highly moral, and they're aware of Superman's thoughts, and they're telling Superboy Prime that, Superman doesn't hate you, he just thinks you're misguided and you're filled with fear. And Superboy Prime, sort of taken aback by that, saying, I'm not fearful, I'm not. But so already we're getting some good character work. We're getting snapshots into what Superboy Prime, what he's feeling. And so he's clearly riddled with some degree of insecurities, and he compensates for it by always wanting to jump into the action. Superboy Prime wants to distract dealing with his inner self by just jumping into the action and fighting and being a hero and talking, breaking the fourth wall, so to speak, as he does. But the truth is that he is. You can already see the rumblings of that true inner hero of Superboy Prime wanting to come out, but he's afraid to really let go. And and I love how Williamson is sort of like that's building up. You know, you can just see the rumblings of that, and I really love that, and that's what makes this issue so well. As I said, it just missed my top 5. And I love the character work. I love the Dark Legion. I continue to love the Dark Legion. I love how we end up getting a... I'm just hesitating here because I might be... yeah, I was going to say, is this the one with the revelation? No, no, it's not. Let's just say that the Dark Legion appears. One of the Superman robots has a message that they want to give to Superman, who's fighting in the DCKO tournament. And that message is meant for Time Trapper / Doomsday. Well, Doomsday, of course, has been defeated and decimated by the Dark Legion. And when Lois and Superboy Prime finally get to the Time Trapper, they're confronted by the Dark Legion of the Dark Legionnaires, the Dark Legion of superheroes, or Darkseid's Legion, and that confrontation results in probably one of the most awesome cliffhangers in a while, where Superboy Prime says, "I'm done holding back. It's effing prime time, baby." And so I'm really looking forward to the next issue. I'll let you talk about more of the details there. It's not in my top 5, so I probably said too much already. So in any event, though, I really did enjoy this. There was just 5 that beat it out. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's in my top 3. Probably showing my love of Superboy Prime here by ranking it that high this week. Because that moment at the end where he says it's effing prime time, like, he referenced. I love what Williamson has done with Superboy Prime, right? Like I had said at the beginning when they brought him back, because he had that edge. He was acting a little douchey, and I had said, man, I sure hope that Williamson doesn't undo his redemption. And it seemed like he did, and then it actually turned out that he was faking. He was double crossing these guys. And when I talked to Josh about it at New York Comic Con, he's like, yeah, he doesn't get to go through everything that he went through and come out unchanged and be that same naive Superboy Prime that we met first in whatever it was, DC Comics Presents way back in 1987. He wears the scars of what he's done, and he's so aware of what he's done. He even references it. He's like, once upon a time, during an event, I lost control and killed a bunch of people. And that's really what I've been, afraid of, is losing control and undoing that redemption. He's fought hard to kind of get back to where he is. Yes, he still wears the scars. Yes, he's kind of a jackass. But kind of in the way that Guy Gardner's a jackass, but maybe a little bit, closer to the line of going bad, as opposed to Guy, where, that's not the case. But Superboy Prime has that fear because he did lose control. He did cross that line. And he was holding back. He has been holding back, but, you messed with his new BFF Lois Lane, and he's not effing holding back anymore. He's going to cut loose because it's almost like evil recognizes evil. He's done evil in the past. He recognizes how evil the Dark Legion is. But it's not that they're completely hopeless either, because, we do have, events transpiring this week that show that perhaps everything is not lost for all members of the Dark Legion. Perhaps there's some humanity in the Dark Legion, and we'll talk more about that later. But I love seeing the Dark Legion as well. There are characters that you sort of love to hate. I mean, I love the Legion of Superheroes. When I've been sorting books, as everybody knows, for the last few months here, and I've been going through my old Legion books. I came when the Superboy title transitioned to Legion of Superheroes. And it just now, I'm sorting 1984, and that's when that issue, that series came to an end as far as original stories, and it started reprinting the Baxter Legion that started in 1984. So that's kind of the era that I'm in right now. So my Legion has been on my mind a lot, and seeing them here as these evil versions is really, really interesting, and they deserve to have their ass kicked by Superboy Prime. So that's really interesting. The other thing that really struck me here, and the reason that I ranked it so high, was the Superman robot that you mentioned, and how they're programmed with this sort of unshakable morality of Superman, even to the point of going beyond what Superman thinks and what Superman values, right? Because they're robots, they're automatons. They don't have the ability to to reason intelligently. Superman's going to look at a situation and say, okay, this is the right thing to do, this is the wrong thing to do. But there are degrees, there are increments, there are mitigating factors that can shift things one way or the other, right? The robots don't really have the ability to do that. Everything for them is going to be black and white. Think of it as ones and zeros, right? Binary code. That's how they're programmed. So they're almost Silver Agey in their goodness, if you will, almost like over the top, rigid in their morality and what have you. And that's so interesting that Williamson is using that and bringing those robots in as, yes, a little bit as a plot device and a MacGuffin, because it has this information from Superman's mother, Laura, that could perhaps help Superman in defeating Darkseid or what have you, because information about Doomsday perhaps having alpha energy and what have you, and they're trying to get that information to Superman. So a little bit of a MacGuffin, a little bit of a plot device. But at the same time, by making them so rigid in their morality, it's a great contrast and juxtaposition when compared to Superboy Prime, where he's struggling to make sure that he stays on on the right side of the line, if you will, where it's so for the robot, it's not even second nature. It's like first nature, right? To stay on that side. That's literally how they're programmed. And so it's interesting. I don't know that you would really have that called to the fore so much without the robots and their kind of rigid morality being here as a contrast and context for Superboy Prime's morality. So I thought that was brilliantly done by Joshua Williamson, and I wanted specifically to call it out because I think it's something that a lot of people will read, and maybe unconsciously or subconsciously that'll come across the angst of Superboy Prime as compared, his struggle with morality as compared to these robots, but they may not be sort of consciously aware of it. Of why the angst of Superboy is, and the emotions and the worry that he's had is landing so well. And I think it is because of the contrast of those Superman robots. So I wanted to shout that out. I thought that was brilliantly done by Josh Williamson. Yeah, incredible writing. So, all right, up next, we have Absolute Martian Manhunter, issue number 8, which, I can't believe we're on issue 8 of this already. Written by Dennis Camp with art by Javier Rodriguez. Javier also does the colors, as he has throughout. Letters by Hassan Otsman Elhau. Now, this didn't quite make your top 5, Rocky.
No, it came in at number 7 for me.
Yeah, so quickly give us your thoughts on it. This did make my top 5, so I'll go into a little more detail.
Well, look, in terms of the story itself, once I get into the story, that's usually, I'm still struggling a little bit because I always have to get past, this sounds so odd. It's such an odd problem to have. This is a good problem, but an odd one. But it's a little bit of an obstacle for me. The art's beautiful. The color work is beautiful. The cover's beautiful. The interiors, they're beautiful. I like the style of art. It's just, but I'm always looking or expecting there to be something a little bit more hidden in the art. I also don't completely still understand everything. Even the food that the people eat seem to be colored and they seem to be talking. Even the chicken that one is eating, it's because all the thoughts of every living life form seems to be prevalent or accessible to the Martian Mindhunter or slash Manhunter. And so even there's scenes where even the chicken is talking about being dipped in fried hell, and I don't understand that. Like, I don't understand why. Like, I don't understand some of the scenes. Why is that necessary for the food to talk? I don't get it. The bad guys here are the agency. So the White Martian is still exists. Is the White Martian's negative influence on the negative energy and emotional energy of the populace. He's still present, but he's hidden, and he's hidden in the mind of John Jones' son. He's trying to reconcile with his wife. He's trying to reconnect with his son. He doesn't know that his son has been influenced by the White Martian. But there's also the agency itself. The agency itself and what what I find interesting in this issue is that clearly the White Martian is spreading his negative energy and if I'm reading this correctly, I think he's maybe slowly building his own army through the agency, to influencing humans to join and calling it the agency, and also seems to be at the end we look like, instead of Despero, the classic Justice League villain, we have Despair, the Zero. So we have this, I think it's a villain, because Martian Manhunter, the Mind Hunter, and this is another thing I was confused. He can separate from John Jones, and then he can be seen and then shot and incapacitated by the agency, because I thought he was invisible. I thought no one could see the Martian Manhunter, but I guess I'm wrong. So I found myself confused by this. I'm confused by this. The Martian Manhunter, I thought, only existed in John Jones' head, and only John Jones could see things because of Martian Manhunter's influence in his mind. But apparently, whatever took out John Jones is capable of seeing him, and this is the agency. But I think maybe they were agents of this agency that could see Martian Manhunter because the White Martian is influencing them, maybe. Anyways, I apologize to those listening if I'm sounding if it sounds a little bit confusing, but I'm trying to get a handle on it here, and I think I'm up to the challenge. I mean, I was up to the challenge for the Green Lantern. I'm up for the challenge for this, but this didn't. I'm still invested in this story, and I am enjoying it, but I do find it is a challenge, and I can understand why some people have are not up to the task of doing that. I'm actually curious to hear your thoughts on this issue, and certainly feel free to correct my misapprehension on what's gone on.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason that this jumped into my top 5 is because I just felt like we got so much forward momentum in the story. So it came in at number 4 for me, and this is a very esoteric book without question, right? Very sort of big ideas, and requires some thought and what have you. But it's so esoteric at times that I feel like we don't get a lot of forward momentum in the actual story. And this one, I felt like we got a lot of forward momentum in the actual story, and I immediately loved it as soon as I finished reading. I was like, oh my God, I felt like I got a big chunk of story, and so much happened. And partly because we got a separation in the middle of the book, as you mentioned, between John Jones and the Martian Manhunter, which allowed John to go and talk to his wife, and it wasn't confusing or whatever. You completely understood what was going on. And then, on the other hand, having the Martian Manhunter separated from him and just existing as an idea, and then this idea of the agency and, being shot with a gun that's really just ideas. Shades of Department of Truth from James Tynion, which is a very popular independent title. So I really enjoyed that as well, knowing that there's, an agency out there that is could possibly be tangentially related to the White Martian, but perhaps not. And it's just, because he talks about the gun that shot him. This is the gun that shot Lincoln. This is the gun that shot JFK. Whatever. We're talking about, civil unrest, and that's what we're talking about when we're talking about sort of where this book is at. And it's easy to lose sight because it is so esoteric. It's easy to lose sight and to forget that this book is set in the absolute universe, and in terms of, this is a universe that's infused with Omega energy, negative energy. There's a malaise. There's a sort of a tendency toward the bad as opposed to the good. So when you talk about things like social unrest and people not getting along and what have you, don't forget that that's the foundation of this universe. And the reason that I bring that up is because remember that this Martian Manhunter is not from Mars, not in the tradition that that John Jones in the regular DC universe is an alien from Mars. the reason he thinks of himself as a Martian or sees himself as Martian is only because, a Martian, the word Martian to John Jones means something that's alien. And so when this entity bonded with John Jones and was trying to learn a common language to communicate with, it latched onto the word Martian to describe itself because that's a word that means alien, right? So it's not actually from Mars. And so much of the confusion comes in the difference of perception, the way that John Jones as a human perceives reality, as opposed to the way this entity that's known as the Martian Manhunter or Martian Mindhunter perceives reality. So when you talk about the different colored foods or whatever, I mean, it's like, yeah, that chicken is no longer alive, and chickens aren't really, as far as we know, not sentient, to begin with. They're not intelligent the way that humans are. But because of the difference in the way that the Mindhunter, the Martian Mindhunter, perceives reality, it's ascribing what it knows of our reality, and so much of what it knows from our reality, it knows from bonding with John Jones. It's ascribing those feelings and emotions and intelligence and thoughts to other things that aren't even alive anymore, like the chicken that the guys that John Jones's superior is eating. So that's how I took it, right? Like, it's even looking at things like the chicken and going, what if the chicken could feel, and if the chicken was intelligent or whatever, how would the chicken feel about all this horrible stuff that has happened to it, throughout its life? Its head cut off, boiling water to pluck the feathers off, and then dipped in, hot oil to be fried, whatever. So that does really kind of sell the idea of how alien, how different the Martian Mindhunter is versus John Jones, who's just a regular guy. So then when you get to the middle part of the book where they're separated, it really kind of shows the difference. And the Martian Manhunter, the last third of the book, the Martian Manhunter is out there trying to kind of experience things on its own without being colored by John Jones, and trying to understand, it didn't necessarily want to separate from John Jones because it's still worried about what the white Martian might be up to. And then it's confronted by the guy from the agency that literally shoots it with an idea, right? That has the belief. And again, this is going back to what I was saying about how much it feels like Department of Truth, shooting it with an idea, an idea in this world that is infused with negative energy, that has that foundation of negativity. And it's able to not only interact, it can see the Martian Mindhunter, it can interact with it, it can harm it. So what will come from that? Is this an extension of the white Martians or not? Is it something different? Is it another enemy? Really, really interesting ideas, because what might be left over for John Jones from the Martian Mindhunter? What might he be still able to possess or see or experience because of his sort of bonding that he's had with the Martian Mindhunter so far? Will he be able to use that to fight off this Despero, the Zero, which seems to be an entity sent by the agency because it is esoteric and it also is an idea? Is John Jones more susceptible to being influenced by these sort of ideas and these esoteric entities because he's already been infected once? Like, it's like, once you get infected by something, does it make it that much easier for the next infection, what have you? And then all of this rendered beautifully, these weird out there ideas by Javier Rodriguez with gorgeous colors. Really, really interesting, really a ton of forward momentum. Originally I think this was 6 issues, got extended to 12. Will it go beyond that? I don't know. I can't believe we're already on issue 8. These ideas feel all way too big to really wrap up in only 4 more issues, but I guess we'll have to wait and see when all is said and done. So anyway, I thought it was really, really, really fantastic, and probably my favorite issue of it since issue 1, actually. All right, up next we have The Flash number 29, Impulse Control, Part 4, written by Mark Waid and Christopher Cantwell, art by Vasco Gregev, colors by Matt Herms, letters by Buddy Bedoin. This did not make my top 5. It actually came in at number 9 for me, but there is one thing that I want to point out. I mentioned this before when we were talking about the Superman title. We do, for the first time, get a glimpse at a member of the Dark Legion that seems to be able to resist Darkseid in a lot of ways, and it's Nura Nal, a dream girl who if you're familiar with the Legion, she has dreams that are prophetic. She can see the future. She has seen the future of the Absolute Universe. Doesn't like what she sees in terms of what Darkseid's going to do to it. So perhaps out of fear, or maybe she does still have some heroic tendencies, wants to stop it and actually aids the Flashes. So I thought that was really, really interesting. But it wasn't enough just on the strength of the other books this week to push it into my top 5. So
I share your thoughts. First of all, I love Dream Girl. She was always one of my favorite characters because one of my first DC comics I ever bought when I was young was Superboy and the Legion, and I love Dream Girl. She's hot. She was always paired off with Starboy, and it's nice to see that she's the one that wants to portray Darkseid, because one of the things that you will notice about Darkseid's Legion is that all the members of the Legion, especially Saturn Girl, they seem resigned to their fate. They know that Darkseid doesn't care for them. They know that they're at the end of the day, when Darkseid wins, their lives might be forfeit. They know that, but they just accept it because they serve Darkseid. Well, Dream Girl is the only one that says, hey, we're more than just minions of Darkseid, and this is what we could have been. This is what we could have been, and because she's read minds, she's seen the future, and she just seems to be able to resist a little bit better, and she actually helps Wally West here, and helps actually it plants the seed of what could ultimately be the defeat of the Dark Legion, the defeat of Darkseid. And I think that's very, very significant here. But like you said, that's really the only thing. If I like the story of Impulse. Impulse, this once again ends with Impulse, them winning the day. They prevent the Dark Legion fails to prevent. They want to prevent the origin of Barry Allen, which gives rise to the Flash family, of course, et cetera, et cetera. They ultimately fail because of Dream Girl's help. But then Impulse runs off into the future because he's afraid, because he sees something that could very well end up hurting the Flash. So he takes off again. So it just seems like, oh, come on, guys. We needed, I don't know if it's absolutely necessary, but anyways. Fun issue, love Dream Girl, so check it out for that reason alone. But if you don't want to pick this up and you're on a budget, just know that the plans of a particular somebody who can betray, that there is a member of Darkseid's Legion that is probably is going to betray Darkseid, which is good to know.
Yeah, I mean, you would have thought that that Impulse knew about Barry dying during Crisis on Infinite Earths, but I don't know, maybe forgot with all the time shenanigans or what have you. Yeah. So that was like, wait, what? But it is interesting, the whole idea that Waid and Cantwell introduced here about Bart being the embodiment of the Speed Force is interesting. Neither one of these guys is going to be writing Flash after the DCKO event. Ryan North, if you guys didn't hear, is actually going to be the new writer on Flash. So will he pick that up, or will that be something that Mark Waid revisits later? Because they're not putting it in here for no reason. I'll say that.
Yeah.
All right. Up next, this book does not make my top 5, but it's in Rockies. That being said, I did enjoy it, especially the art. I love Erika Henderson's art. I think it's well suited for this story of Harley and Ivy, Life of Crimes. This is issue number 3. She handles the colors as well, with letters by Hassan Otsman Elhau. This came in at number 12 for me, but again, it's not that I didn't enjoy it. It's just based on the strength of the other books this week. But it was in your top 5, so go ahead and give us your thoughts.
Yeah, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Erika Henderson, because this was just a well-written story. And this is something where, one of the comments that I made about the Poison Ivy series with J. Willow Wilson is that J. Willow Wilson's done such a good job with developing a relationship between Poison Ivy and Janet from HR. I actually think that Pamela Isley and Janet from HR have more in common to make a better couple than Pamela Isley and Harley Quinn. And before people say, how could I say such a sacrilegious thing? Go read Poison Ivy, and maybe you'll get some semblance of what I'm talking about. It's just that well written. Well, kudos to Erika Henderson here, whose story about how Poison and Ivy, how they met and how they initially developed their initial attraction, what happened. And I believe this is an in-continuity story. I kind of hope it is. I can actually see some semblance of why maybe Poison Ivy had some initial attractions to Harley Quinn, despite the fact that Harley Quinn's always been a real screw up. I like this. It's not insane. It's not all over the place with just the craziness. And I don't want to pick on Elliot Kalan as Harley Quinn, but this has a scintilla of verisimilitude that I love, that I enjoy. This has taken the characters respectfully, taken them seriously, but it has the patented humor that we're used to seeing in Harley in the Batman animated series, while elevating her character, giving them a little bit more agency vis-a-vis each other, and also, interestingly enough, using a version of the Joker that is the Joe Mechanic Joker, because he had, which is messing Joe's Garage. It's messing with continuity a bit there, but regardless, I liked it. And I really liked how Harley Quinn sort of like, just when you thought she had gone back to the Joker, she wouldn't. She betrayed the Joker and ended up in Poison Ivy's arms. And even how their first act of intimacy with each other, I thought was very comically done, but very well done and just really entertaining. You could see really, I was very impressed. And again, I'm doubly impressed because Erika Henderson's art is not an art style that I'm beholden to. It's not my favorite, but the storytelling's fantastic. I really enjoy it. And notwithstanding my reservations on the art, I'm loving this series. And she's done a really good job. And there's 14 comics this week. And this, I had to put this, I put this in at number 4. And I'm really looking forward to see how this ends. I'm really curious to see how this ends. And honestly, put Erika Henderson on the main Harley Quinn book, if this is what we're going to get here. I mean, and even if you have a different artist on the main, if Erika Henderson can't keep up with the art, make Erika Henderson the main writer on Harley Quinn. I would love that. I would, because this is more of a more serious take with just the little blotches of humor here and there, which is my preference. But yeah, I enjoyed this. And by the way, I love cover A because it has that romance. It reminds me of the old romance comics with the great big exaggerated word balloons and and the teardrop big tears coming out. It's just, I think the cover A looks fantastic. I might even buy two of these cover A's. I love them because I got a small little collection of romance comics. Some of those, you can't beat those classic romance covers. Some of them, they're just awesome, and I really like this cover.
Yeah, girl usually in tears.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have Erika Henderson as the writer on the main Harley title. I don't know that she's the right art, because here's the thing about her art style is very cartoony. She is a cartoonist in the true form of the word. The problem is that when people see this type of art style, they think that it looks a little more juvenile, and so then they think, oh, it's aimed at younger readers. Yeah. So I want to be clear, this is not a book that's aimed at younger readers. There's lots of mature stuff going on. Yeah, it's not one for your little ones at all. Yeah. So I worry about that. I love her art style, and I love the story that she's telling in terms of the more mature kind of themes and ideas, like you were saying. But I just don't know that her art style is, it could lead people to a misconception.
But her writing is good enough that they could have a different artist on the main art and just have her as a writer.
100%.
In my opinion, I like the writing.
And she could do covers or whatever. But I don't want to say that I don't like her art style, because I do like her art style. So anyway, let's move on. Up next, a book that's not, I think, in either our top 5, but it's Justice League Unlimited number 15 from writer Mark Waid. Dan Mora and Sean Isaacs are the artists. Tamara Bonvillain on colors, Ariana Mayer on letters. This is continuing the story of the time-displaced heroes. They're down in hell or what have you, trying to stop Neron, because Neron has given a bunch of the supervillains that are still on Earth all sorts of abilities and powers. He's powered them up, basically, so that they will give him more souls, and if they help disrupt the evacuation of Earth for the DCKO, that means more people die. That means Neron gets more souls. That means Neron gets more power and what have you. So a lot of big ideas that are happening. There's a couple of heroes that we've only seen tangentially before. Kadejos, Golden Frog, and Boruka that show up here. Airwave shows back up after not having seen him since the Justice League Dark Tomorrow special, which is the book from last year, 2024, summer 2024, actually, or no, summer 2025, July 2025. So I this is referenced. He was part of that team, that mysterious legend character that we never found out who it was that came, and they ended up taking the Wave Rider, and they went and fought against Shadowlass from the Darkside Legion and defeated her and stopped whatever shadow demon factory. They sort of look like the shadows from Crisis on Infinite Earths. And then I sort of forgot all about that story to the point where it was referenced here. I had to go back and read it, and I know why it didn't really stick with me or whatever. It's because of the timing, right? Like, it came out like the week after San Diego Comic-Con. I was trying to get all the content out for Comic-Con. We were late recording that episode and whatever, and there was a bunch of books that came out that week. So I understand why it didn't really stick with me, but I went back and reread it, and that was the thing I was talking about before with, man, this big story's been going on since 2024. But all that being said, I still want to know who that legend person is. Hopefully the fact that this Dark Tomorrow special is being referenced means we're going to get that mystery solved. Mm-hmm. I like Airwave as a character. I like the journey that Mark Waid's been taking him on. And I'm sort of more interested in that story than I am in the main story here of these time-displaced heroes that are basically going to try to make a deal with the Neuron. When this issue starts, the Electric Blue Superman, Gold Hawk, Mr. Terrific, Batman Beyond, Dr. Fate, and Owlwoman are the only ones left. It appears that Mr. Terrific is the only one that actually makes it to Neuron. All the rest perish along the way, and Mr. Terrific tries to make a deal with Neuron, because he even tells Superman along the way, he says Neuron's weakness is he can't resist making a deal. So he tries to make a deal. He offers himself up as a mole. He'll be Neuron's secret agent on Earth, and he's going to try to out maneuver Neuron at some point because he's the smart guy or whatever. But Neuron actually turns him down. He says, "Unfortunately for you, the position's already been filled," and he gets shot from behind by Owlwoman. So apparently Owlwoman has been a mole all along. So interesting choice there. I'm glad it wasn't Airwave that turned out to be the bad guy again. I feel like he's been a little bit done dirty. He's the modern day Wally West of DC Comics, constantly getting the shaft. But I did enjoy this. Obviously, Dan Mora, fantastic artist. Sean Isaacs, fantastic artist as well. But yeah, a lot to enjoy here. Again, another tie-in where it's really not moving the main tournament story forward, but there's plenty here that may have repercussions coming out of the event. Again, I know it wasn't on your top 5, Rocky, but anything you want to add?
Not really. I like the Terrific 10. I wouldn't even mind seeing them again. Of course, they all made the ultimate sacrifice in getting Mr. Terrific in front of Neuron, and
except for Owlwoman.
Owlwoman, yeah, of course, and which I thought was a hell of a cliffhanger. I find it curious that of all the people Neuron would choose as an agent of his, it would be Owlwoman. Yeah, I don't know a lot about Owlwoman, to be honest with you.
Not even Owlwoman, but like a time shard, like a time echo. Not even the real
echo,
actual Owlwoman. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but hey, I mean, it's interesting. Again, to me, it seems, his deal that he makes with the villains, Neuron is always, I don't know why the villains, part of the deal with the villains is that if the villains, it's hard to convince the villains to betray Neuron, because why would they? Neuron offers him safe haven in hell. I mean, don't worry, stay in hell, and I'll give you superpowers, and whatever's left of the Earth, I'll send you back to Earth with new powers, and it's all going to be. So you can understand the villains, saying no to the evacuation and wanting to jeopardize things. And so, in any event, it's well done. It's I think it's it probably could have ended this issue, but with these DCKO tie-ins, they're dragging on a little bit, but I am having fun. There is fun to be had here, and so it is what it is. And for those people, is it a must buy? No, it's not a must. You don't need to. You could skip this, but if you're having fun with the rest of DCKO, I don't know why you wouldn't want to get this. What the hell? Why not?
Yeah, technically very well done comic. It's paced well, whatever. So you expect that from Mark Waid and Dan Mora and Sean Isaacs and company. And And it's not ranked particularly high for me this week, but again, that's the strength of the week. If this was last week and there was only 7 books, it definitely would have been in my top 5, probably in my top 3. All right, up next, this is the one for me, excuse me, that came in at number 6. Probably deserves to be in my top 5, but I just didn't have room for it. Absolute Batman number 16, Scott Snyder, the writer, Nick Dragotta, artist. But I do want to point out that Nick gets co-writing credit. He's credited as writer-artist, which I love. That Scott Snyder's, he's basically saying that hey, Nick is not just drawing this. He is creating the story with me as well. So I love that. Shout out to Scott for giving Nick that credit. Frank Martin handling the colors, and then Clayton Kalan letters. The splash page is amazing. It's so awesome with Batman on his motorcycle, double page splash. Just looks absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it's hard for us to show it on YouTube because it is a double page splash, but it's absolutely fantastic. And this is a crossover with Wonder Woman, but I do want to point out that a lot of people are saying, "Oh, this is part 2." The previous issue of Wonder Woman, Absolute Wonder Woman 15, which was the first Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman crossover. Yes, that's their first crossover, and yes, this is their second crossover, but they stand alone. So I say that only to say if you're only collecting Absolute Batman, you can read this and you don't need to worry if you miss that Absolute Wonder Woman 15. I mean, you should go and read it because it's a good story on its own. But you don't have to worry about picking this up and being lost.
Yeah. Well, they call them a duet. They call them a duet, the 2 issues, which I like,
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good way to put it. They complement each other, but they're not, that is a complete story into itself. This is a complete story into itself as well. For me, where this issue really stands out is it shows how much Bruce really cares about his friends, the characters that we know in the main universe as his rogues. Whether that be Oswald Cobblepot or Harvey Dent or Waylon Jones or what have you. He goes on this journey through the underworld with Wonder Woman purely in the hopes to find a cure for Waylon. And he goes through a lot. Like they have to walk for over 2 weeks. And it's actually pretty humorous the way that Scott does it. It's like, okay, day 1 we walk and there's lightning. And Absolute Wonder Woman says, don't look at the lightning, it'll kill you. And then there's like this pterodactyl-looking creature that's flying through the air singing. He says, don't listen to the song, it'll kill you. And they're walking through sand. If you stumble, the sands will kill you. And then they come upon a Colossus on day 11. And Batman tells is that a Colossus or a Cyclops? He goes, yeah. If you look in his eye, he goes, oh, let me guess, he'll kill me. He's like, no, it's just impolite. Why would it kill you? But everything else is going to kill him. It was so funny. It had me laughing out loud. So again, this is great storytelling. It's not as action-packed as a lot of the previous issues of Absolute Batman have been. They do fight this sort of centaur god, and Absolute Batman does get a chance to ride on the skeletal Pegasus, which is a really great image as well. But this is more of an emotional issue that kind of informs how much Bruce cares about his friends, which I really, really appreciated because at times, especially the way Scott Snyder's described Absolute Batman, Batman AF, Batman always forward, always advancing, singular determination. We certainly saw that in the Bane story arc with what he was willing to do. And so with that sort of tunnel vision, with that single-mindedness, it can be easy to forget the people that you care about because all you're focused on is the goal. And this is an issue that shows us that despite whatever his goal is and him always advancing whatever, he's not forgetting the people that he cares about. So I really, really appreciated it. Great art by Nick Dragotta. And again, like it was really hard for me to keep this out of my top 5, but I really enjoyed it. What are your thoughts, Rocky?
Yeah, well, this easily made my top. This made my top. This made my top 3 quite easily. Hey, man, Absolute Batman on Pegasus doesn't quite look as he looks pretty good. I still prefer Absolute Wonder Woman on Pegasus, but he still looks pretty awesome too. The characterization here is just fantastic, but the action is also fantastic too. This is Batman is what what stands out for me a little bit, to add to your comments, how this is a Batman who's not afraid to be uncomfortable in his discomfort. You know, in the mainstream Batman doesn't like magic. I get a sense that this absolute Batman, he doesn't have a problem with magic. You give me whatever I need to help my friends. He'll do whatever he has to help his friends. And he'll be comfortable with whatever the hell it is, and he'll make whatever the sacrifice is. And Wonder Woman, to her credit, is absolute Wonder Woman here is surprisingly, I won't say she's very cryptic with Batman. Instead of just telling him, "Oh, by the way, use the arrow that you were shot with from this creature we defeated. And use this to help cure Killer Croc, or to because Batman's motivated. He wants to help Wayland because he's turned into this creature, this crocodile. He looks like a crocodile, and he's got like 4 legs. Batman at least wants to make him just give him his 2 legs back. He wants to try to cure him, and if he's got to use mythology to do that, he'll do so. And he can only use the talisman to call upon Wonder Woman 3 times, but he's using it once because it's for his friend, and the sacrifice that he makes and is. You really feel it. It's emotional. And he also has a vision. And what I found was very interesting there is that if I didn't know better, it's almost as if I would think, like, when Bruce fell asleep, when Batman fell asleep, Wonder Woman intentionally placed some coins on his eyes, which, because he was just going to sleep, but if she put some coins on his eyes, clearly she must have known. It's almost as if she intentionally drug him, because she gave him something to drink, and then she put some pennies or a coin on his eyes, knowing that he was going to have some kind of journey, but yet she couldn't possibly have known what he was going to dream about. But I thought that was very interesting, and I like the fact that Scott Snyder is letting that sit there. We don't need to know what Wonder Woman knows. We don't need to know everything that's going through Wonder Woman's thoughts. But we know that Wonder Woman respects Batman, and she knows that he's going to go on his own personal journey, and she respects that. And she remains cryptic right to the end. She says, "No, the answer lies within you." It's Bruce Wayne still has to figure it out on his own, and it's as if and that's a reflection also of absolute Wonder Woman's journey, and that's how she's raised. That you don't give somebody answers. You gotta grow. It's your journey. You've got to discover part of the magic. Part of the power of friendship, part of the cure is you figuring it out on your own. The answer lies within you. Well, it's not within you if I'm going to tell you everything. You got to figure it out yourself. So I even like the empowerment of that Snyder imbues into this story. The other thing is, just like an absolute Wonder Woman with Batman guest starring in that was a story that moved forward. It was necessary. We learned something about the main plot with absolute Wonder Woman vis-a-vis Veronica Cale. And Area 41. We learned something about the machinations over in that title. We learned something in this title, because it's significant now that there's going to be an arrowhead worn by Killer Croc, and we also actually met Lucius Fox too, which was interesting. So he works on Arkham. But anyways, I just thought this was just a brilliant issue. I loved it. I absolutely love cover A. I think it's fantastic. I do have, for those watching on YouTube, all the covers. Unfortunately, the Frank Cho cover with Wonder Woman and Batman is a 1 in 25. I wish DC would not do that. They're super successful by just having these open order. Don't have 1 in 25s.
I don't think the Frank Cho's 1 in 25.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Corner there?
Well, yeah.
The Federici, the lower right corner, is what I see as 1 in 25.
Oh, is that what it said? Okay, well, I was just watching on YouTube. Another retailer said that the Frank Cho was the 1 in 25. But I mean,
that's not what I'm seeing on League of Comic Geeks.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. So, I don't think there should be any ratio covers for this. The absolute, again, it's not listening to fans. Every single cover should be open order. Every single cover. Don't play that ratio nonsense game. Retailers don't need more. You don't need to help the retailers out. They're already happy with Absolute. That's just me on my soapbox. But in any event, that's wonderful, by the way, because I want to get the Frank Cho cover. So that just makes it easier for me to get it. So I hope you're right. I'll find out when I go to my comic shop. But in any event, great issue.
Yeah, I was trying to look for it at my comic shop, but it's not even listed anymore because I think it's probably already sold out. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, great issue. Up next, we have Justice League Red, issue number 6 from writer Saladin Ahmed. Art by Clayton Henry, Arif Prianto on colors, Lucas Catoni on letters. This is the final chapter of this. The art continues to be fantastic. This did not make my top 5. It wasn't bad. Ultimately, I don't know how memorable this is going to be. I probably remember it more for the fantastic Clayton Henry art than anything. I mean, it was fine. It wasn't a bad ending by any means. Probably the thing that I enjoyed the most at the end was Green Arrow or Red Tornado, rather. Feeling guilty for allowing these nanites to kind of take him over, or what have you, and the rest of the heroes calling him out, saying, "Hey, just because you're an artificial person, doesn't mean you shut down. Like, because regular people make mistakes too. You just have to learn to, move on, learn from your mistakes or what have you." And then teases this might not be the end. And yeah, I mean, I would be down to see a little bit more of Justice League Red, mostly because I like the characters. I feel like we're not getting a lot of Power Girl these days, and this felt a little bit more like the traditional Power Girl as opposed to the Paige Statler or whatever version that I don't care for. I like Simon Boz. I could do without the Red Canary, but you should find, I don't dislike or whatever. I like Red Tornado. I'm not the biggest Cyborg fan, but again, just based on seeing some of these other characters that we don't get to see a lot of, I'd be down for a little bit more of this, but maybe have a story that kind of stands on its own a little bit more and a little more memorable would be preferable. So, anything to add?
Yeah, I thought it was funny. There's near the end where it shows Red Canary talking to her mother. I think it's her mother. She's literally on the windowsill, and there's actually a red canary. It looks like it's a red canary bird right on the windowsill with her. I just thought that. Boy, that's a little close to the chest. I sort of chuckled at that. In any event, I want to give a shout out to it's Clayton Henry, right? He's the artist. Yeah, I mean, look at this. Look at this gorgeous image, the final image of Supergirl hovering above. Thank you, Clayton Henry. He's got so many awesome, wonderful angles of Power Girl in all her glory throughout this series. I love it. And this final one of her with, Power Girl, what a beautiful character. Wow. And, extending her hand to Red Canary, telling her that we're just getting started in regard to Justice League Red, actually now being formally a team. I got no problem this being, I've been enjoying this. I enjoyed these 6 issues more than I was probably, than I've been enjoying Justice League Unlimited, this tale of the Terrific 10. The Justice League Red, I've really been enjoying this. It felt a little bit forced at times, but I've enjoyed this series enough and I like the interplay with these characters. It's funny because one of the series that got canceled this past in 2025 was Power Girl. And I think that it was just the approach to Power Girl. I think sort of like the Sex and the City approach to Power Girl doesn't work. The Sex and the City approach might work for Sirens, which is coming out next month, but it didn't work for Power Girl itself. That maybe for Gotham City Sirens, but not for anything, not for this series. But having Power Girl here as a character, just in a group dynamic. She works so much better in a group dynamic, and I just enjoy Power Girl more. At times this felt like a Power Girl series. It felt like almost a Power Girl adventure because in many ways Power Girl was the focus. And I still kind of wish we'd go back. I'd like to have Power Girl finish that conversation she had with her parents that Red Tornado set up at the beginning. I want more Power Girl, and if I have to get it in the pages of a Justice League Red series or a second mini series, so be it. Bring it on.
Yeah, especially if Clayton Henry's drawing it.
Absolutely.
All right. Next book is in both of our top five. Absolute Flash number 11 from writer Jeff Lemire. Nick Robles handling the art. Adriana Lucas on colors. Tom Napolitano on letters. Give us your thoughts, Rocky.
Okay, I'm just waiting for the comic to load here. Sorry. This was a very consequential issue. I thought a lot happened. So much happened in this issue. We know that Wally West, last issue, he ended up at a place called the Still Point, and he's talking to sort of like a ghost apparition version of Barry Allen, and Barry Allen explains to him that essentially Wally West got his speed from this mysterious place called Still Point, and he described it as the eye of a great never-ending storm, is how he described it, and it's filled with red life energy. And there is a particular spot within this at Still Point where there's this dark black hole pit in Still Point where that's where it's a hole that when you go down the hole it provides you negative energy and it could adversely influence you. And Eobard Thawne was possessed by that, and he's become this horrible entity that wants to escape Still Point into the real world. And his granddaughter, Eleanor Thawne, realizes that, oh my God, because she wanted to access Still Point. And Eleanor Thawne realizes in this issue that she made a horrible mistake, that my God, we should maybe, she was hoping that she'd be able to access some great power if she accesses Still Point. She was hoping to access power to control it so she could have maybe more Wally Wests and more people to control the power that whatever might exist in Still Point. But in fact, it's this, her Eobard Thawne is trying to escape, and so she's keeping that at bay. And the Rogues Gallery are coming in to rescue Wally, and they end up along with the Trickster, who betrayed the rest of the Rogues. The Rogues and the Trickster and Eleanor Thawne are trying to sort of close the entrance into this Still Point to prevent this Eobard Thawne from coming into the real world. Meanwhile, but they have to, in order to close it, that's tricky, and the Trickster is trying to work on that. Meanwhile, the central part of the issue is Wally West having a conversation with Barry, and Barry explaining to him that Jay Garrick managed to resist this darkness that is in Still Point, but he ultimately died. But Wally's special because he didn't become a ghost. He managed to stay alive. He kept his physical form, and he's managed to somehow access this real life, this red life energy is what he calls it, red life energy. And what's interesting here, and what I find fascinating about it is that while at the end Wally West manages to escape and come back to the real world to ultimately, confront Eobard Thawne, what I find interesting is because I've always wondered, what is the access, what gives Wally West his speed? In the mainstream universe, it's the Speed Force. But as far as we know, there is no Speed Force in the Absolute Universe. It would appear that what we have in the Absolute Universe is this red life energy. But the open question I have is, all right, but we also have Omega energy that is powering up the speedsters in the Dark Legion in the mainstream universe. They want to replace Omega energy. They want to replace the Speed Force. They want to destroy the Speed Force and replace it with Omega energy. So what's interesting is that I would have thought that in an absolute universe that there wouldn't be a Speed Force, and there would probably be an Omega Force that would give speedsters speed. But I'm inclined to think that this red life energy is rare, and this is why it's sort of hidden, because this red life energy seems to be a positive thing, but it's being infected by this black hole that tried to negatively influence Jay Garrick. And so it's interesting. There's a lot of it makes me wonder what's going on, because Barry Allen and other scientists from around different parts of the universe have also accessed Still Point, and they're also ghosts or souls, apparitions like Barry Allen, and they're working together to try to figure out exactly what the red life energy is and what the black hole pit is. And I thought it was. There's a lot of information jam-packed in here, and my speculations that I just went off about, I could be wrong. I'm spitballing here, but I like spitballing, and it's fun. That's why I enjoyed reading the comic. And I have no problem being corrected in future issues. It's sort of like reading Al Ewing's Green Lantern a little bit, in that it can go in different directions, and so I enjoy it for that reason. So I really enjoyed this. And again, this was an action-packed issue. I think this is probably one of my favorite issues so far. So much happens in this issue, and I'm really looking forward to the next issue. But there's enough information we got more information from Barry Allen, a lot of interesting information with interesting ramifications about this red life energy at Still Point. Is it like a speed force? Is it something different? How is it different than Omega energy? How can it exist in an absolute universe? I just, all these questions, again, that's part of the why I'm enjoying this journey in the absolute universe, because it's a brand new universe and it can write its own rules, and that's appears to be exactly what it's doing, and I really enjoyed it. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, definitely one of my favorite issues, maybe my favorite of the whole series. Maybe number one might still have that slot, but if so, then this comes in at number two, because again, so much momentum, so much forward momentum for the story. There are still some nitpicks that I'll get to, but yeah, I liked the idea that we got so many answers. I'm right there with you. Like, as soon as I hear like red life force energy, I think of the red, right? Like, we know the green, we know the black, we now know the blue over in Aquaman. Yeah. And so, yeah, I was thinking of the red that is basically like all the animal kingdom life force that Animal Man and his daughter, can't think of her name right now. Not important. But, yeah. Anyway, like, is that something, and would that be antithetical to Omega Energy, as you mentioned? So how is that going to work? We'll have to wait and see. Maxine Baker's. That's right. But anyway, the thing, and I think the reason that I enjoyed this so much is this actually, for the most part, I mean, we did have plenty of the rogues, and we did have the Thawns and other people showing up. But one of my biggest complaints about Absolute Flash is how it hasn't felt like a Wally West book. This feels like an ensemble book. Like, we've had as much, maybe more of the rogues than we've had of Wally. And even in this issue, Barry arguably does more talking than Wally does. But at least Wally has some agency when he shows back up in our reality, and he's ready to take on this Eobard Thawne monster. So I'm hopeful that going forward, it's going to focus a little bit more on Wally, because we are 11 issues in, and I feel like I still don't know who this Wally West character is. I mean, we had some clues early on when he first got his abilities about him having some little bit of social anxiety, a little bit of maybe depression or some sort of other sort of mental issues, which is understandable considering the age and his age and the things that he's been through. But I want to learn more about him. Who is Wally West? Like, if you compare this to like Absolute Batman or Absolute Superman in terms of like main character development and characterization and evolution, those books we've gotten way more. And again, every book is different, every writer is different, and this has been more of an ensemble. And I love the rogues; they're super interesting and what have you. And I like the foundation that Jeff Lemire is building. But the book is called Absolute Flash, so I do want to learn more about Wally West himself. And again, I felt like he had more agency in this particular issue, and I feel like we might be starting on that journey to learning a lot more about him. I thought the Nick Robles art was awesome. It can feel a little one note when everything has got this reddish tint, because they are in that other dimension or what have you, where it is the red. And I thought he handled that really well. So I'm really curious to see where this goes, and even to get an idea of what Wally's powers are. I mean, it's the Flash, right? So we know he's fast, but he's exhibited, some other abilities as well. And, obviously we know what the Flash in the main universe is capable of. These powers are a little different. It's not the Speed Force, as Rocky mentioned. So, what can he do beyond just being really fast and what have you? So we'll have to wait and see. All right, last book we're going to talk about in detail. This one also makes both of our top 5. It's a new art for Absolute Wonder Woman with issue 16, Season of the Witch, part 1 of 5. Kelly Thompson is the writer, Hayden Sherman on art. We've got Jordi Belair on colors and Becca Carey on letters. Main cover is the first cover appearance of the Absolute Zatanna. There's also a Guillaume March variant cover that's really, really awesome that that Rocky has up on, if you're watching us on YouTube.
Absolutely.
There's
Gorgeous.
also Angela Wu variant, a Derek Chu variant. Every one of these variants is awesome. I'm going to look up which one I don't remember which one I ordered, but I'm picking up others. I'm picking up other covers when I go to my comic shop tomorrow. But I'm going to do that while Rocky gives us his thoughts on the issue.
Like this easily made my top 3 because one of my this issue started off, I thought, a little bit slow paced. It had some flashbacks. It had Wonder Woman, it had Absolute Wonder Woman, a flashback with her, sitting amongst Pegasus beside her, and then flashback with her, talking to one of the gods again and talking about how, she feels that she needs to learn more, and she wanted another god to show up to help train her, and they didn't. And it was just more, I thought, okay, where is this going? And then, of course, we got this very consequential speech by Steve Trevor talking to the American people, singing Wonder Woman's praises, and talking about how many times Wonder Woman has saved them. And of course, the government, of course, and we got to remember, this is the Absolute Universe that's filled with Omega energy. So we can assume that all governments have an element of inherent corruption about them. So this isn't necessarily a reflection of the real life American politics. This would have been a corrupt government, likely because of this is the Absolute Universe. And so, like, Steve Trevor is being questioned by a Senate committee, and they're concerned about this Wonder Woman. I mean, she basically took control of the U.S. Army when a city was invaded by these monsters, and they're concerned that and she's got all these names, Princess of Hell, taking over the U.S. Army, so they have understandable concerns. And Steve Trevor, of course, just goes out of his way saying, no, he basically sings her praises, saying, we need to rely on her. She's the best of the best, et cetera, et cetera. Sings her praises. I'm cutting to the chase. And then we jump ahead. And we get Wonder Woman looking absolutely gorgeous. Hayden Sherman. I actually had my doubts early on that Hayden Sherman could draw a sexy Wonder Woman. I'm wrong. She looks gorgeous in this nice long black dress with that little sexy tattooed red arm. For an arm that doesn't really exist and is all magically created, it looks pretty damn good. And she's there with all her friends. And Barbara Minerva, of course, actually set up this huge gala with Amazonian artifacts that she could find, and Diana is the sort of guest of honor. Diana, of course, she ends up fainting. She feels like she senses an attack coming, and that's where we get the ultimate reveal that Zatanna shows up at the end, Absolute Zatanna. And boy, does she make an appearance. We knew that she met Zatanna last issue or a couple issues ago, where she spoke backwards to Wonder Woman, and as Wonder Woman recalls, and basically she did that to take away Wonder Woman's magic, or not take it away, but to control it. So now Zatanna, by creating a spell, by saying a particular phrase multiple times as she had in the previous issue, now has control of Wonder Woman's magic. And what I love is Zatanna shows up with what apparently is the Absolute Universe's rendition of the Suicide Squad, which is just awesome. We actually have the cheetah. and with Giganta, Zatanna, Dr. Poison, and an Aqua figure called, I looked on the internet, I think it's called a Gurkha or something is the name of the character. It's an Aqua character of some kind. I think it's Gurkha. You can Google it in any event. It's unnamed, but I can't wait for this battle. It looks like it's going to be epic. One of the criticisms I had of Kelly Thompson early on, and it was one of my fears, is that I thought that all of her characterizations were, the plot is what's really impressed me. I like her storytelling, but Steve Trevor is still the Steve Trevor of the mainstream universe. I thought that, all the other characters were kind of carbon copies of the mainstream universe characters. And even Wonder Woman's character, her personality, is kind of a carbon copy of her mainstream. But it worked because of the great storytelling. What I'm happy to discover here is Zatanna feels different. And the Suicide Squad is a completely different makeup. And it's mixing things up. And I like that. I really, really like that. And I love how one thing I've come to expect from Kelly Thompson is that all these flashbacks, I know that there's always a reason Kelly Thompson has them. It's never wasted. It's never wasted space or wasted storytelling. Every time they show Wonder Woman a flashback, talk and have a conversation with her gods, there's always a lesson to be learned that she's going to carry forward. And she's going to carry forward and use it to some advantage in a battle. She did that in her battle against the creatures that attack Gateway City. She did that in the battle against when she used her, I think, one of the lassos she had with Medusa. And she's going to do it again here with the conversation she had with her god to ultimately defeat Zatanna and the Suicide Squad. We're going to have to wait till the next issue or the next two issues to see how that plays out. But I absolutely love this. I'm getting some vibes here that maybe Zatanna is an LGBTQ character, because Zatanna made comments about how beautiful Wonder Woman's eyes were a couple issues ago, and she calls Wonder Woman cutie here. Hey, cutie. So it's like I'm picking up those vibes. I might be wrong, but I like it. And again, there's a sexiness and a raunchiness to these female characters that I really enjoy. Thank you, Hayden Sherman. Fantastic art. I just love this. I just absolutely love this issue. Easily my top 3. So I rambled on there, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's in my top 3 as well. I thought it was really fantastic. I love this Zatanna. I'm curious if this Zatanna is somebody who is going to remain a villain, or if perhaps she's misguided, or certainly Veronica Cale is, manipulative, and she's, the aquatic member of the Suicide Squad that you mentioned, having this parasite, as opposed to having a bomb in her head, she has some sort of parasite that could possibly kill her. Is Zatanna being controlled or manipulated in some way? I guess we'll wait and see. I've never known Zatanna to be anything but a hero in her various iterations. So how that's going to play out, we'll have to wait and see. Seeing the Suicide Squad, as you mentioned, is really, really cool. The first thing I was struck by was like, hey, wait, that's Cheetah, and Giganta and Giant Poison, whatever. And I'm like, wait, if that's Cheetah, and we already know Barbara Minerva is, Absolute Wonder Woman's friend, then who's Cheetah? So I'm curious to know who the Cheetah is. Yeah. I love this version of Dr. Poison, how she's just, gaseous and has to have that containment suit to hold her. We know nothing of Giganta yet. We'll have to wait and see. The Gurkha character, again, we know nothing. We'll have to wait and see. So all of that is really interesting. All these first appearances and what have you, we'll have to see how they all play out. Some of these being traditional villains, some of them, as I mentioned, Zatanna being traditionally a hero. We'll have to wait and see. But the other thing that I want to mention here, I'll get to the Steve Trevor thing because I thought that was cool as well. But in terms of Absolute Wonder Woman herself, the thing that I'm continually struck by, and I think it can be possibly misconstrued, and again, this is just my interpretation, and so maybe I'm getting it wrong. But the way that I take it, I could see some people going, oh, this, we both mentioned it at the beginning of when it was just Absolute Batman, Absolute Superman, and Absolute Wonder Woman, how Diana felt more similar to her mainstream counterpart, her mainline counterpart than Superman or Batman did. And you could look at this version of Diana as being, well, if you go back to, a simpler time, golden age, where characterization and stories weren't quite as sophisticated or developed, and everything was sort of black and white, a more innocent time, and that's this Wonder Woman, right? And so, I could see, and I think I did see some people talking about that, how she's could be construed as a Mary Sue, and her going back to the earlier conversation we had about morality and whatever, and she just sees things in black and white, and so it doesn't make for interesting storytelling because there's no nuance to her character. So I want to be clear that that's not who this Wonder Woman is. It isn't a naivete, which it could come. I could see how some people could come across that way, right? Because a little bit of a fish out of water story with this version of Wonder Woman having grown up on, the Isle of Hell, and coming to our world for the first time, and thank God Kelly Thompson hasn't done any of those cringy, or at least too many that I can think of, any of those cringy jokes of, how do you use a phone, or how to use a microwave, or whatever. But she is definitely of a different world, and so she doesn't necessarily have the context in terms of how to use modern technology, or even how to talk to people, or what have you. So there could be the tendency to look at her as again, that cliche, that fish out of water, that could be easily manipulated and easily fooled because she's too trusting, and what have you, and she doesn't understand the ways of the world. Because there is a goodness to her. And so I want to be clear that the way it comes across to me is she's such a pure character. Even from going back and looking at these flashbacks, when she's not a fish out of water, she's on the Isle of Hell. She's still, there being raised by Cersei, as her mother or whatever. And no matter what situation that Kelly Thompson has put her in, what monster from the Isle of Hell is confronting her or whatever, she always comes to them with wanting friendship, or wanting, justice, or wanting peace, or, not immediately resorting to violence. There's no cynicism or kind of jaded aspect to her personality. There's again, I'll use that word, a purity to her, a strength of character that goes beyond, I think, the Wonder Woman of the main line, who can at times have that cynicism, especially, in more modern stories, certainly in the Tom King story that's being told right now, the Tom King run of Wonder Woman. And you can understand why, right? She's in the, quote unquote, the world of man, or man's world, or however you want to put it, and has been burned and has seen the Amazons be, persecuted and subjugated to all sorts of things, time and time again. She's seen the way that humanity has treated itself, whether it be Maxwell Lord killing Blue Beetle, or whatever. And so you can understand her, the main universe Wonder Woman having a little bit of that cynicism, having a little bit of that jaded personality. That is not who absolute Wonder Woman is. So if you want to look for the difference, and again, that wasn't necessarily apparent in the first few issues, and how could it be? Because we didn't have the context for that yet. And so I really applaud Kelly Thompson for, the way I see these two characters, they've really diverged. They're very different, actually, when you talk about the main universe Wonder Woman versus this absolute Wonder Woman, who, again, has that purity that really shines and can inspire people. And that goes into what we see with Steve Trevor, and, the way he speaks to the government, resigns his commission and what have you. And even to the point where saying, if you want to ask me questions again, you'll have to subpoena me. And you can't help but, it's almost like a rah-rah moment. You're like, hell yeah, Steve, way to go, way to stand up for your beliefs and whatever, because he's speaking truth to power at the end of the day, which we, certainly in this country right now, we could use a little bit more of that. Unfortunately, the people that are in power here, it doesn't matter what they don't believe in the truth. You speak truth to them and they just call it lies. So, but in the world of comics, where we can look to brighter days and look to things with more hopefulness, it was great to see that. So this was a no-brainer for my top 3 as well. The Hayden Sherman art is absolutely excellent. I really like the look of this Zatanna, especially with kind of the platform shoes. I love the look of Giganta as well with the giant mane of hair. Going to be curious to see how Wonder Woman handles this 5-on-1, especially with all the innocent people around. I just thought this was an excellent issue. Really kind of, for the first time, seen it, at least for me, really kind of crystallized that idea of how different Absolute Wonder Woman is from the mainline Wonder Woman. So I thought it was an excellent issue for sure. All right. And I ordered the Derek Chew cover, which when going back and looking at them, it's probably my least favorite of the main of the covers A through D. But again, at the time when I ordered them, a lot of these covers aren't available, which is what sucks about ordering your comics 2 months ahead of time. But it's such a huge discount. I can't not do that. But it's fine. Again, I'll just pick up some of these other covers at my local comic shop tomorrow. So, okay. In terms of other issues that are out this week, we have a few. We've got, first of all, there's some reprints, some facsimile editions of Batman the Killing Joke. So if you have never read that Alan Moore story, Brian Boland art, whatever, and you're curious about it, honestly, I feel it's a little overrated, but I'm not the world's biggest Alan Moore fan. And at this point, it's been homaged and referred to so many times. I feel like it's kind of jumped the shark at this point. But if you're curious, if you've never read it, if you want to pick it up, it's available. Also, the DC Marvel Batman Deadpool crossover is getting some second printings, 4 different covers. There's one that has Magic and Catwoman. There's one that has, Psylocke and Katana. Another one has Wolverine and Batman. And then the last one, it has like a mashup of Batman, Deadpool on there as well. So, again, if you're looking for some reprints, those are out this week. And then in terms of collected editions, we have a few. We've got Batman Adventures Mad Love Deluxe Edition hardcover, which basically collects the Batman Mad Adventures from a couple of the creative minds behind Batman the Animated Series, Paul Dini and Bruce Timm. Batman The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween is getting a hardcover. This is the series that is sort of the final story in the Long Halloween universe by Jeff Loeb with a ton of different artists that came together to put this out. So this was what Jeff Loeb was working on with Tim Sale when Tim unfortunately passed away. Then as kind of an homage to Tim, they put this out. So it collects all 10 issues as well as the Last Halloween 0. We also have a DC's Finest Batman book. Now, again, these trade paperbacks, these DC Finest trade paperbacks are reprints that give you stories that sort of epitomize who these characters are. This particular one, because it's DC's Finest Batman, The Case of the Chemical Syndicate, they're reprinting the earliest appearances of Batman. So these are books that most of us are never going to be able to afford, right? The vast majority. I know our listenership and viewership is always growing, and we really appreciate that. But I don't know that anybody out there in our audience could actually afford a Detective Comics 27 or a Batman #1. But that being said, collected here, you can get them in trade paperback, collects Batman 1 through 5, Detective Comics 27 through 52, and World's Best Comics #1, which is actually it becomes World's Finest Comics with issue 2. So that's the first Batman Superman team up. Also, DC Power, Rise of the Power Company hardcover. So Rise of the Power Company was last year's February Black History Month's anthology. For some reason, they're not doing a Black History Month anthology this year. They're just reprinting this as a hardcover. So, okay, I guess that's what you want to do, DC. Also, the follow-up to the first Fire and Ice crossover, Fire and Ice When Hell Freezes Over by Joanne Starr, is getting that entire series collected. That's issues 1 through 6. And then finally, Superman in the 70s, trade paperback. I don't know which stories it collects because they're not listed, but it is 224 pages for $20, and it collects a bunch of Superman 70s stories. So if that's your bag, look for that at your local comic shop this week as well. So, all right, Rocky, I'm pretty sure I went first last week, so give us your rankings for the week.
Okay. Sorry. My rankings coming in at number 14, DC's Supergirl Next Door. Number 13, Harley Quinn 58. Coming in at number 12, Green Lantern 31. 11, Flash 29. Coming in at number 10, Justice League Unlimited. And number 9, Justice League Red. Number 6, coming in at number 8, DCKO Kids Are All Right, number 1. Coming in at number 7, Absolute Martian Manhunter 8. Number 6, Superman 34. My top 5, coming in at number 5, Detective Comics 1105. And number 4, Harley and Ivy 3, Life and Crimes, issue 3. My top 3, Absolute Flash 11. Number 2, Absolute Batman number 16, and coming in at number 1 was Absolute Wonder Woman number 16. I absolutely loved it, and it was kind of a no-brainer for me. And I'm looking forward to picking up my 2 Zatanna covers.
Fantastic. All right, for me, coming in at 14 is Harley Quinn number 58. At 13, we've got Supergirl Next Door, number 1 anthology. At number 12, Harley and Ivy, Life and Crimes. At number 11, I've got Justice League Unlimited, number 15. At number 10, I've got Justice League Red, number 6. And I flip-flopped those. I went back and forth. Didn't know which one to rank higher. I eventually put Justice League Red, just beating out Justice League Unlimited, because I wanted to give a shout-out to Clayton Henry's art. That is purely a ranking where the art pushed one above the other. Not that the art's not good in Justice League Unlimited, but man, Clayton Henry drawing Power Girl, I'll take it all day. At number 9, I've got Flash number 29. At number 8, DCKO, The Kids Are All Fight special number 1. At number 7, I've got Green Lantern number 31. At number 6, but really I'll call it 5A or 5B, I have Absolute Batman 16. At number 5, or 5A, whatever, 5A and B, I've got Detective Comics number 1105. At number 4, I've got Absolute Martian Manhunter number 8. Best issue by far since the first issue. At number 3, I've got Absolute Flash number 11. At number 2, I've got Superman. Again, my love of Superboy Prime showing itself there. And I have a couple of Superman statues. I showed the most recent one I got last year, which was amazing. And I really need a big giant Superboy Prime statue is what I've decided after reading that issue this week. But anyway, if you've been keeping track, that only leaves one book left, and it's the same as Rocky, and it was a no-brainer. And again, sometimes when we pick the same, we'll switch, but I can't pick anything this week except Absolute Wonder Woman number 16, which just lets us show off another cover, which is awesome. Like, what an incredible job by Kelly Thompson. We both had our doubts. I mean, when we read the first issue of all 3 of the Absolutes, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, the ones that launched the line, Wonder Woman was by far the least exciting for me. Yeah. And now it's like I mean, Superman is still my favorite, but Wonder Woman is right there. And Batman at times is there. It's almost like, what's your favorite? Well, what's the latest series that I've read? What's the latest Absolute series that I've read?
I feel compelled to say something I never said. One of the things I love about the Absolute Zatanna is that Zatanna is known for her fishnet stocking. And I love that the fishnet is actually on her arms and her body and her abs, covering her abs and not her legs. I just think that's kind of cool. I love her design. I love her costume that Hayden Sherman gave her.
Yeah, she's way more goth. So we'll see how that plays out. But anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Thanks for joining us as always. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell so you know when new content comes out. If you're listening audio only, the Comic Source podcast is available on all podcast platforms and apps. Just do a search and subscribe. You have thousands of episodes you can go back and listen to. But if you are listening audio only and you want to check out the art every week when we do this, it comes out on Rocky's channel, Comic Space Boom! ! And while you're there, head over at YouTube, head over to the Comic Source YouTube channel as well. Like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell so you know when interviews and other content comes out for the Comic Source. I just dropped an interview with Richard Ashley Hamilton earlier this week, talking about the 4th volume of Scoop, which is the final installment, at least for now, as well as a story he did that reveals never before secrets about the origin of Speed Racer, which Mad Cave has the license to. So if you're a Speed Racer fan, definitely go and check that out. Appreciate everybody joining, like I said, and we'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.